Holy audio gremlins, Batman. So just real quick before we jump into the episode, I wanted to start out and apologize in advance to Jay Wolber. When I did the episode a couple episodes back with his brother Jeff, I told you that I have somehow inherited what I'm calling the Wolber curse when it comes to audio. A little peek behind the curtain. I did quite a few episodes months ago trying to get some stuff in the bank so that I wasn't, actually doing an episode every single week and trying to get ahead of the curve. And out of those, I had several guests. Some that you've already heard, Mr. Brian Bowser from Top Gun Minute. Some that you haven't heard, so stay tuned for those. But out of those episodes, everything was fine. The setup was completely fine. The audio was completely fine. No issues whatsoever. Only the episodes with Jeff and Jay Wolber, respectively, have this weird audio glitch, and it's not their audio that's causing it. It's my audio that's doing it because they sound fine. I sound like I'm Ace Ventura yelling and swinging the sliding door back and forth, going, oh, 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 just dropping in and out, and I don't get it. So I specifically with Jay did not mention the museum that is not to be named. I did not mention the Men in Black. I did not mention all those things that the guests that he has on his Cryptids of the Corn podcast witness the weird or experience the weird technical glitches and difficulties. If you want to know what I'm talking about, definitely check out their podcast. Take a listen. Some weird stuff. But anyways, it's the Wolber curse. So I apologize in advance, guys. The audio is a little weird like it was with the Jeff episode. I did what I could to save what I could out of it. If you don't listen, I completely understand. Please give us another chance. Listen to our other episodes that aren't like that. And stay tuned. Jay will be back in future episodes. I have him slated for like 2 or 3, I think 4, maybe this season. Same with Jeff. Jeff is hopefully coming back too. We'll get it figured out. We'll solve the audio as we're doing it. But I just want to give you a heads up that yes, guys, this one sounds a little wonky too. I'm sorry. For those that came from the Cryptids of the Corn podcast to check us out, please don't let this be the bar that you think my podcast is. I am very amateur. I am very free. However, I am better than this. Take a listen to my back catalog. I promise you'll enjoy. But I just want to give you a little heads up. Again, sorry, Jay. The Wolber curse has struck again. But otherwise, enjoy the show, guys.
I now declare the quick draw competition open.
Howdy, everyone. Pull up a chair, kick up your boots, and take a sip on a nice cold brew. It's The Quick and the Pod, the show where we take a look at the 1995 Sam Raimi classic, The Quick and the Dead, one chapter at a time, part of the Support Your Local Podcast Network. I'm your host, Robert T. Smith, coming to you from beautiful Tombstone. Yes, that one. Today we're going to take a look at Chapter 5, Challenge Rule. But before we dive into that, I hear some spurs out on the boardwalk. The batwing doors of the saloon are flying open, and there's a long, shadowy figure standing there. We have a guest today, one Mr. Jay Wolber. Jay, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Robert. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. So me and Jay go way back. We're business partners of old back in our bowling days, back when we cared about such things. Jay is one of my beloved Ohio bowling families, the Wolbers, but also known for his podcast in his own right. So Jay is a member of the Cryptids of the Corn podcast. Definitely take a look at that. We'll hear a little bit more about that later. But Jay, I thank you for gracing our presence and coming here to Redemption and putting your name on the board to see how you fare in the shootout.
Well, I'm glad you had me on here, but the shootout, I'm ready for it.
Nice. To get yourself in here, so this is your first venture here at the Quick in the Pod. The tradition is we have to get your gunfighter name. So Mr. Pat Hingle, who will be talking a little bit more later. He knows what to write down on the board. So, Jay, you've had a little bit of time to think about it. What's your hardcore gunslinger name?
Hardcore? Oh man, I wasn't ready for the hardcore one. I don't know. I thought of like something shooting Colt. I don't know. How about Deadeye Colt? Let's go with Deadeye Colt.
Deadeye Colt. I like it. I like it. Deadeye Colt
Sounds
is
westerning enough.
that you don't get much more westerny than that. I'll give you that. The only thing would be is if your last name was like McSpurs or something.
Oh, can I add that? I'm doing it. Shooting
It's
or Deadeye Colt McSpurs.
Deadeye Colt McSpurs. I like it. Pat, run it up there if you have enough chalk. But so welcome
That's
to
something to
the
see.
gunfight. I'm just going to call you Deadeye. I don't have enough wind to go through the entire name every time, but I may just call you Jay. We'll see. Um, before we jump into our chapter, Jay, as you're well aware, something we like to do is take a little bit of a deep dive and take a look at one of our cast or crew in the movie, one of the movers and shakers, somebody that made the movie what it is, and just a huge wealth of people in this movie. I got to tell you, this is a kind of a who's who in regards to cast, and especially in regards to character actors. Today, let's take a look at one Mr. Pat Hingle, playing Horace the bartender in this movie. But we both know him as something else. We'll get into that. But let's jump into a segment that we like to call "Put My Damn Name on the Board."
Put my damn name up.
Mr. Pat Hingle, unfortunately, no longer with us. I did find out he had passed away in 2009, but left a pretty good legacy as a character actor. Um, since all the way back in 1951. That was some of the earliest credits that I could find with him. He was in a lot of various TV shows, as most people were back in the 50s. You know, if you weren't, there was a clear segregation between your movie stars and your TV stars, and there wasn't really a whole lot of crossover. In the 1950s, it was a lot easier for an actor to find their way and make their way into bit parts into all the various TV shows that we had. So he hit most of the regular crowd in regards to that time frame. So he has several appearances on Rawhide. He has appearances on The Untouchables, the Elliot Ness Show, starring Robert Stack, the scary unsolved mysteries guy. Um, the Twilight Zone. He was in. Uh, Here's an interesting fun fact I found. One of his first movie roles, and I just found this very, very fortuitous that Jay would be here with us on this. He played a character named Bigfoot in a movie called Nevada Smith. And I couldn't
How
dig too
fitting.
much to find out if it was a true Bigfoot that he played because he's kind of a bigger, hairy guy. When the first credit that jumps out at me is Bigfoot by Nevada Smith, and I know my buddy Jay is going to be here, man, what can I say?
It's meant to be. The stars aligned for this one.
As many a time it did for Mr. Pat Hingle. 1971, he was in 6 episodes of Gunsmoke as Dr. Chapman, so definitely has some Western roots. Again, it was kind of hard back in the 50s and 60s to not be on a Western because that's just what dominated the TVs. You had your Bonanzas, your Rawhides, your Gunsmokes. It was hard not to be in a Western, but he does have his chops there. But a majority of his TV spots really kind of revolve around the Western guy, the cop, the general, the colonel, lots of law and military figures. And when you look at him and kind of his demeanor and his presence, I mean, you kind of get that. He has kind of that softer, doughy, kind of bureaucratic type of demeanor in a lot of his
Mhm.
roles. His first big role outside of being Bigfoot, obviously, that goes without saying. His first big role is the one that both me and you are going to obviously know him most from, and we chat about this a little bit before we started recording. This is my Commissioner Gordon. You know, Batman 89 was right in my wheelhouse. I was 7 when this came out, and I very, very vividly remember the summer of 89 where you could not escape Batman. It was in every commercial, it was in every music video. You had the McDonald's food. You had, no matter where you went, the Tim Burton Batman symbol was right there. So you can't you can never discredit just how huge of a social impact this movie was, and thus being, this guy's my Commissioner Gordon. You know, props to the guy that played it in the Adam West Batman show. I saw him first, but that's not Commissioner Gordon. And props to Dracula, Gary Oldman in the Nolan series. He's still
Yeah.
Dracula to me. My Commissioner Gordon is and always will be Pat Hingle. Jay?
Yeah, I agree with that. And we had the McDonald's cups growing up, the glasses with the Batman on it too. It was, and I wasn't even born yet, and that stuff was still going on.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
I
the,
was,
the merchandise was everywhere.
oh yeah, you're right, you couldn't escape it. And everyone still says Michael Keaton's their favorite Batman, and I tend to agree with that too.
I can't
They
disagree.
just hit it. Yeah, they hit it all on that one. It was very good.
Yes. Yeah, Michael Keaton is my Batman. He's my Commissioner Gordon. As much as I loved Jack Nicholson's Joker, I got to give the nod to Heath Ledger in this current age. He just kind of made it his own. Excuse me, his own thing. But yeah, the Batman '89, it had such a cultural impact that kids our age, man, and I know I'm a little bit older. That's just your Batman now.
Still their Batman. Forever, always be their Batman.
Right. And I have to, and you'll get a kick out of this because Josh, my buddy Josh Clark, I cannot mention Pat Hingle. I cannot mention Commissioner Gordon without saying, oh my God. For those of you that listen to We Hate Movies, great show. Please go listen to them. Listen to their Batman episodes. You'll know and get that joke. But anytime that you hear about Commissioner Gordon being Pat Hingle, you have to throw Josh an oh my God or you owe him $1. So shout out to Josh.
I can hear him saying it.
So for as big of a character actor as Mr. Hingle was, he was kind of, and rightfully so, as we mentioned, he was kind of molded and pigeonholed into this Commissioner Gordon role. So 92 or 89, you have the original Batman, 92 Batman Returns. He appears here as Horace the Bartender in 95, but also in 95, you have Batman Forever. In 97, you have Batman and Robin. Fun fact of the day, there are only two people that were in all four of the Joel Schumacher Batman movies. So Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman Robin. I'm going to put you on the spot, Jay. Can you guess who the other person that was the only other person that was in all four?
So Pat Hingle was one, I'm guessing, right?
Commissioner Gordon was one, yes.
Oh, on the spot here. I'm going to take a shot in the dark. I can't remember who was all. Well, it can't be Batman, obviously.
True that. We had three separate Batmans. Yep.
Three separates, yeah.
Batmans. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever the plural
Batmy? Are they Batmys?
Yeah, I think you're right. That sounds right. I don't know. I really don't know.
It is actually Michael Goff, Alfred.
Alfred. Wow.
Yes.
Oh, that should okay.
Michael
Makes
Goff
sense.
plays Alfred in all four of the Schumacher Batman films. Him and Pat Hingle are the only thread through line that goes through all four of those movies.
Wow, I would have never even guessed that. Huh. That's an interesting fact there.
Yes. And so he leaves the Batman series, obviously because they stopped making them because Batman and Robin almost killed the franchise. And in 1999, the only other noteworthy role that I saw him in, he's in Muppets from Space. So I have to mention anytime somebody's in a Muppet movie. So
I didn't know that either. I don't think I've ever seen that one though.
you're not missing much. It's one of the lesser ones. It's no Treasure Island. It's no Christmas Carol. But at the end of the day, it is still the Muppets. So it's worth a watch.
Right. Okay, maybe I'll give it a go again, just for Pat's.
Do it for
Pat's
Pat,
sake.
man. If not for
Right.
Kermit, do it for Pat. He is kind of Muppet-like,
Yeah, he's a character.
A couple fun facts that I did pull from his biography. So he did serve in the Navy in World War II. So and rest in peace, Mr. Hingle. Thank you for your service.
Hmm.
Something that I did not know about him. So during his time and working on the stage, he actually fell down an elevator shaft. He almost died. He was stuck there for quite a while. He actually almost died, and he lost the little finger on his left hand.
Oh, the whole thing?
The whole thing, from what I read. So this is internet half-ass trivia. Shout out to the Rainers.
Okay.
But so I found that interesting. So now I just read that here in the past couple of days preparing for this episode. Now when I watch the movie, I'm going to be looking at his left hand and seeing if he has a pinky finger missing. It's kind of like Scotty, oh, name just blank, but Scotty in the original series of Star Trek, he lost
Mm.
part of his finger during battle and the war. So if you have a keen eye looking for it, you'll notice that he's missing half of his finger. From now on, whenever I see Horace holding a glass of whiskey or handing it off to somebody, we need to watch and see if we can spot the finger or lack thereof.
Or yeah, or if they're even hiding it in the scenes, like it's obvious that they're hiding his left hand.
So it's like somebody that was pregnant back in the '60s. If he's like standing behind something, he's blocking his finger.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe he has a prosthetic.
Oh, now we're gonna be really looking deep into this.
I'm just saying he has to have some friends with Sam Raimi. He has to have some friends from the Batman movies. Somebody's going to hook you up with a prosthetic. Not a bad group to be involved in.
No, not at all.
If you need nipples on your bat suit, I mean Schumacher's your guy.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, they did a great job with all the costumes in Batman and Robin. So,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
why
Everybody
not, why
everybody
not
loves
add
a
a
little
pinky
neon.
finger? Yeah.
All right, but that was our deep dive into our beloved Commissioner Gordon. Shout out to Pat Hingle anytime that he is a part of the movie. He's a pleasure to watch. I know that we're going to get a kick out of his character Horace, the bartender, as we move along throughout this one. But this has been put my damn name on the board.
Add my name to the list.
I like it. And shout out to all character actors that just never fully get their due. A lot of them really make some movies.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's the character actors are the ones I get the most, and I'm glad you bring that up. I actually had a quote. I didn't turn my page on my notes, so let me backtrack. I actually had a quote from Pat Hingle that kind of sums up exactly what you said, and it puts it into perspective. He says he can be a truck driver, a doctor, a lawyer, a hanging judge, whatever. And looking like I do has allowed me to make a good living in all kinds of media. It's a blessing, and I'm aware of it.
Hmm.
So, I mean,
It's
that's
very true.
that's great insight because you look at him and like that's what makes a great character actor is he can be pretty much any role that you stick him in or her in, and it works. And those are the guys, you think of like the John Turturros or him, or these guys that have these 200 and 300 credits. We always know him as, oh, it's that guy, or like you said earlier, like I know him from somewhere, and until somebody mentions what it is. Like these people made a damn good living because they were always working. They didn't have to have that
Hmm.
one $10 million project. They just grinded out steady work, but they got to do what they really loved, and that was the acting portion of things.
Right. And it helps that looked like the everyday man too, because it makes the movie even more believable and you connect with those characters a little bit more, even if they're in it for like 5 minutes.
Absolutely. I mean, look at a guy like Steve Buscemi.
Right.
That man is not,
He's in
as much as I love him, he is not a physical presence.
No.
But I
No,
recognize him
now
every
his
time he's on
eyeballs are bugging
screen.
out of his head.
All
He
right.
has a lot of screen time though for Steve Buscemi. He got his worth on the film.
Absolutely.
Whatever film he's in.
He's one of those characters that draws your eye, whether it's in disgust or not. But
Oh, it's funny.
all right, with that, let
Uh,
us good.
no, I was just gonna say, but we love Steve Buscemi.
Oh God,
We
yes,
do.
yes. I'm by no means knocking Steve Buscemi. He's one of my favorite actors, and I do a little giddy giggle whenever he pops up on something, especially if it's something I wasn't expecting
Oh,
him in.
this is very random, but my favorite Steve Buscemi scene is, I think it's Escape from LA.
Hmm.
And you remember the part where Kurt Russell's riding on the wave out of town?
You mean the part where
And
people started to hate Escape from LA?
well, this is what makes it great. Yeah, it's so bad it's good. So he's riding on that wave out of town. Steve Buscemi's riding along the road right beside him, and he looks over and sees him and looks back, and then does a double take and has like the most shocked look on his face, and it's the funniest, like fakest reaction ever.
Absolutely. Mine has to. It is and always will be Donnie from The Big Lebowski. That's kind of
Oh
my
yeah, you can't
pinnacle
beat
for.
that. Can't beat Donnie.
All
All
right,
right,
and
you ready
we're
to get into this?
what's up?
I say you ready to get into
Yep,
this scene?
let's hop in. And we're back. We start our chapter with Gene Hackman taking a sip of a drink at the bar. Looks like whiskey. So he's apparently gotten out of his agua phase from earlier, and it looks like a proper drink. But I thought originally that maybe he didn't drink to stay sober and alert, being around all those gunfighters in chapter three. But he has the same bodyguards with him at all times, so it was interesting to see if that was the reason. But as he's sitting here taking a drink, maybe he just doesn't see Pat Hingle as much of a threat, as opposed to being sitting in a bar with 12, 14 gunfighters that are literally gunning for his money, as that's the only reason that they're there.
Ah, that makes more sense. See, I'm coming into this movie blind. I've never seen it before. So that's, yes, I'm a first timer.
You're a virgin.
Do you got a ring? Yeah. Is there a bell you ring or something, or something? I don't know.
Oh, we can certainly add one in. Hit the virgin
I'm a
bell.
first timer. So when I seen that part like come in, I guess this was the first glimpse of this movie I had, was this scene. So, and immediately I heard, Gene Hackman's I don't know, the whole energy in the room. He's the big man on campus.
He's
And
Gene
you can
fucking
just tell
Hackman,
right
dude.
away before he even says a word.
Again, he's Gene fucking Hackman.
Exactly. In my notes, I just wrote classic Gene Hackman character, the most important man in the room.
Yes. Yeah, you can never question his presence at all, whether it's supposed to be his character or not. You got to be drawn to the man.
Exactly. Or I was going to say, wasn't he Lex Luthor?
He is Lex Luthor in the Christopher Reeve series of Batman, Superman.
Right. So we're kind of got Batman versus Superman crossover here
See,
in a different Western universe.
Commissioner Gordon under the thumb of LexCorp.
Some things never change.
Well, his hairstyle did, but
Oh yeah. It's all connected.
it's all connected. So yeah, if you get a chance, I mean, obviously Gene Hackman's not your episode of Put My Damn Name on the Board, but stroll down memory lane sometime and see just some of the great stuff that he's been in. Whether it's The Unforgiven, like you said, the Superman movies. This I count this as one of his best roles. Fun fact, something that I got to stump one of our previous guests with, or one of our future guests, I should say. Spoiler, we're doing this out of order. Did you know that Gene Hackman is in Young Frankenstein?
No, I did not know that.
So you're familiar with the Mel Brooks movie Young Frankenstein, Gene Wilder and such?
Yes, with Gene Wilder. Yep.
Okay. Gene Hackman is the blind man.
No way.
The man that
I'll have
pours
to
the soup in
rewatch
his
it.
stomach and lights his finger instead of the cigar. That is
I'm
Gene
gonna have to
Hackman.
rewatch that. I did not know that.
I only knew it from listening to the Mel Brooks commentary, but once you know that and you see it again, you go, that's 1000% Gene Hackman. But he was friends with Mel Brooks, or still is, and was shooting on an opposite set or had a day off or something. Was just stopping in to see the movie, and he got a uncredited role as playing the blind man. So next time you see Young Frankenstein and that comes on, I guarantee you'll go, that's Gene Hackman.
Oh, and so I have not really had the desire to revisit that movie
Oh,
in
blasphemy.
a long time, but now I do.
It's Halloween season, sir. Put on the Ritz.
It's meant to be. It's meant to be. I'm gonna do it.
So Sharon Stone enters the saloon and she reluctantly walks up to the bar and orders a drink. We're to presume that it's the same rot gut that she had ordered the previous night. And she's standing next to Hackman, who hasn't paid her any attention. We hear her heartbeat getting louder as she's working up the courage to presumably approach Hackman and presumably to challenge him to the gunfight that we saw. Um, Before we go a little bit further, Jay, you said this is the first time seeing this, so you don't really know the lead up to this. Watching this for the first time, what's kind of your read on this Sharon Stone character?
So obviously I knew she had her focused attention on Hackman before, and the Sam Raimi classic, like he does like the sound effects really well and really sets mood with them with that heartbeat. But obviously I knew she was aiming towards him, and she was just getting ready to draw her gun before she gets distracted or gets interrupted by that other guy, the drunk guy behind her.
Yep. So, not to spoil the movie for you, I'll give you a little background on that background character. I'll let you figure out the Sharon Stone Gene Hackman dynamic as you go back and watch the movie further. But that guy was the beginning of our movie. He was out in the desert digging up what we presume some sort of treasure or marked money or whatever. When Sharon Stone's character rides up, he shoots at her thinking that she's trying to steal whatever it is he's trying to get. He doesn't do a very good job of it, and she knocks him out and chains him up to the wagon that was right there and runs off with both his horse and his hat because he shot a hole in her hat. So Sharon Stone, at this point, we don't know a whole lot about her character, but we do know that she is at best a horse thief and a clothes thief. So be that as it may, the time frame that we're looking at, the late 1800s, like people got hung for stealing horses. It was beyond Grand Theft Auto. You were stealing somebody's livelihood. You were stealing their transportation. Things got lean. You may be stealing their supper. So they took that very, very seriously. So we're kind of stuck on feeling out these characters and seeing exactly what this Sharon Stone character is doing,
Right. So she's a horse thief, a hat thief, and a badass.
And a badass. Don't forget that. As we found out in the
Right.
previous chapter, though, she is a very shitty shot, but we're working on that.
Oh.
Um, but anyways, I digress. She gets stopped before she gets to actually challenge Hackman by a hand on her shoulder, a great Raimi shot too of the hand coming out from nowhere and grabbing the shoulder, and we see that it belongs to none other than Tobin Bell. And I don't know if you recognize the gentleman, but that is obviously Jigsaw from the Saw movies.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yep, that is one Mr. Tobin Bell. He is there to play a game. Um, my question is, how did he? The thing. My note is, hey, it's Tobin Bell. How did he get here?
Like the guy with the wagon on his
Yes.
chained to the wagon wheel still?
Yes,
Okay, that's him. Okay.
that is
I'm assuming he walked,
Jigsaw.
right?
I mean, that had to have been a long walk because he had a horse, and Sharon Stone rode on one. We see her ride off, and it's presumed that it's on his horse, so maybe her horse made it after the shot. It's not really shown what happens there, but yeah, if not, that's a long walk through the Arizona desert, and let me tell you, being out here, I don't like long walks in Arizona sun on paved concrete. I can't imagine going through the desert where he's located at without any water or any type of rations.
Well, maybe he wasn't drunk then when he tapped her on the shoulder. He's just pure exhaustion.
He's just got sunstroke.
Yeah, he's like on death's door, tapping her shoulder. It makes a lot more sense now.
Right. And the question I had with it too was, she walked into the saloon. We see her enter. She comes and gets her drink, and she's standing there next to Hackman. She's looking at him, ready to challenge him. How tunnel visioned was she about getting to Gene Hackman that she didn't notice Tobin Bell standing there with a freaking wagon wheel attached to his. If he came in after her, how she didn't hear it dragging, and if not, he had to have been standing there the entire time.
Right. You'd think you'd hear that wheel getting drug across the floor.
Right.
But, the heartbeat was so loud, maybe it was just deafening her everything.
I mean, maybe you get your adrenaline pumping, you get the heartbeat in your ears. Okay. I can live with that. That's not bad. I like that. All right. But I'll counter that with the opposite of the last time we saw Tobin, he was calling her every name in the book as she was riding off with his horse and his hat, handcuffed to this wagon wheel. How did he go from so intently looking for murder to not just murdering her in real time and making a very loud occurrence of it? So shame on him for not giving her the heads up that he existed in there as well.
Right. But I think that's all due to the sunstroke.
That's fair. That's fair. But he whatever is ailing him, he does bring his temperament down to a soft whisper when he just tells her that he challenges her, and when
Right.
we we see the wagon wheel still being dragged behind him. Nice touch. I get Jacob Marley vibes whenever I see it, but I definitely get a chuckle whenever I see the wagon wheel is still attached. It's just a nice little nod from earlier.
Yeah,
She
good callback.
Nice little callback.
Just to remind you what happened.
Yeah, in case you were wondering who this guy was, oh yeah, that's the guy from the beginning of the movie.
Right.
And she refuses his challenge, and this finally gets Gene Hackman's attention. He's finally, noticing what's going on, and he asks her what she's doing there, if not to fight in the contest. And you can't turn down a challenge once it's been made. That's the rules. So if she has a problem with that, then she needs to leave town. Um, she being confronted with the situation, she has to confirm that she doesn't have a problem with it. And we get to find out that from Pat Hingle that she'll be fighting a man named Kelly. So we get Tobin Bell's name as Kelly, and that they're going to fight at 7 o'clock that night.
And you hear when they put that name up on the damn board, it's screeching, the chalk screeches so loud.
It's just an annoying noise. It's Raimi. I'm going to start a
Yep.
part of the series that just says that's so Raimi, and list the things that make it such a great Raimi show. Couple things. First, while she's being chastised by Hackman, we see that Tobin Bell or Kelly in this situation, he's taking a drink out of this huge glass thing, and I'm pretty sure it's a vase for flowers. I
Mm.
We've seen the glasses that are in this bar. This is the same saloon as earlier. It's Pat Hingle's, presumably the only saloon in town. And he just has this giant, like 8 to 10 inch glass that he's guzzling water out of. And the only thing I can figure is that there was a vase of flowers somewhere. We see flowers a little bit earlier when the daughter takes Sharon Stone up to her room. So maybe it's just a vase of flowers that they have in general to do that. But he's guzzling this water out of here, and it's just another nice touch because I'll tell you, having been stuck in the desert for however long he was, I mean that's the first thing you're going to be wanting. You want a nice long drink.
Oh yeah, you don't care where it comes from.
No, no, no. You would stick your head out in the horse trough. You may be drinking out of a spittoon at that time. Um,
Shoot, you might stick your head under the horse.
Straight from the tap. I like it.
Yeah.
And so, secondly, we now know that his name is Kelly. And I did a little bit of research, and I came across a website. And those listeners out there, please give it a look out. They're not a sponsor of this show. They're not affiliated with the show. But it's a website that is supposedly ran by one of the stuntmen that was actually on the movie, and he does some chronicling of things he saw, things he did, some really cool pictures, some cool deleted scene information in there, some script information. It's a really cool lookout, so definitely give it a look. It's quickandthedead.net. And it's an unofficial page. It's not sponsored by TriStar or the makers of the movie. It's literally just this stuntman's blog of his occurrences or his experiences when making the movie. And on there, I found a some information and some background on his character. And there's actually a deleted scene where Sharon Stone's talking to the blind boy, and it presumably happens right after this scene ends, where they're sitting there and Kelly is across the street, and they're talking about the blind boy is giving her kind of the rundown of who he is. So his name is Mad Dog Kelly, and I'll let you watch the deleted scene sometime to figure out why he's named that. But it is a nice little touch and fills in the gaps of what exactly is off on this character. It's not all sunstroke. He's just a little off. And we get to find out what exactly it was he was doing at the beginning of the movie when he was digging up all the holes around that wagon wheel. So when you get a chance, definitely give the quickandthedead.net or quick and the dead, no the quickandthedead.net a look-see. And then go on YouTube, go on there and check out the deleted scenes. It's some cool trivia stuff, some stuff that floats in. You can kind of tell why it didn't make it into the runtime of the movie. It doesn't really advance a whole lot of the plot, but still some cool little background info on the character.
Just a little context for the character.
Yeah, for people that are doing a deep dive in the movie.
Oh, like you.
Hey, that's like me. So as Pat Hingle shows us the piece of paper that says 7 o'clock, we get a glimpse of the scary old man from Home Alone again. So good call by Jay. He correctly identified him as the creepy old neighbor from Home Alone.
So I'm wondering if in this movie, I'm wanting to see if he turns out to be good.
Spoilers, you do find out.
Oh, okay. I can't wait.
But this time, instead of him being the scary old man that he was in our scene a couple episodes ago, he looks a little bit more so worried than scared. And we get a nice transition of the back of a deck of cards being fanned out. It's presumably being done by Lance Henriksen or Ace Hanlon. And I know I said it before, but literally every time I see him with the long hair and the pencil mustache and the goatee, I have to chuckle. I mentioned in episode 1 that the opening scene of him where he's just leaning on the Batwing doors and he's introduced, every time that Jess sees this movie, she laughs out loud. And in fact, she chuckles every time that Lance Henriksen is on the screen because he just looks like a douchey Jesus. And I'm trying really hard to get that hashtag to trend. If you're on social media, hashtag douchey Jesus. It's CHEY. I spell it the proper way. Douchey Jesus. Make it happen, please.
I might want that on a shirt with his face.
Spoilers, I may be making a douchey Jesus shirt.
I've never heard that nickname before, but I like it. It's fitting.
I'm just saying. So as he's fanning the cards back, it's a nice transition out of the saloon out into the street, and we see that he hands a small child, or excuse me, he has a small child come up and picks a card out of the deck, and then hands the deck to presumably the child's mother? Question mark. As he's walking away towards his horse, he takes a second to admire a few ladies up on a balcony. I'm not sure if they are ladies of the evening or if they're just members of the town, but as I mentioned in a previous episode, I don't know that there are a lot of just regular women in this town. It seems like everybody may be in that profession, but they definitely take a noticing of him. And one of them actually even tells the other, he's so hot. And if the douchey Jesus moment makes Jess chuckle, every time she sees them say that, she guffaws out loud. Just because, as she says, there is nothing even remotely attractive about how Lance Henriksen looks right now with that ridiculous getup.
He's so hot right now.
He's so hot right now. Mugatu would be a very big fan of his Western attire.
Oh yeah.
And it's a scene straight out of a Disney movie. And every time I see it, I hearken back to It's just like the scene of the ladies admiring Prince Ali and Aladdin when he's doing the
Ooh,
parade down the street, and they're the ladies are guffawing over him and fainting. They have the vapors. There's the scene where everybody's admiring Gaston and Beauty and the Beast. It's just something out of a fucking Disney movie. Every time I see these two ladies kind of fanning themselves over the picturesque beauty that is douchey Jesus.
when you add that context into the douchey Jesus part, I'm gonna have to rewatch this scene again because it's just making me laugh thinking about it. Now I gotta just see it physically again.
Well, if I get at least one person to watch the movie just based on our podcast, then I have succeeded, sir. If it happens to be one of my guests, even better.
Mission accomplished.
And so Ace tells the girl to hold up the card, and he sits sideways on the horse, facing the other way, and he flips off the back and shoots from underneath the horse. So logistically, hopefully that makes sense. So the girl's standing, a few yards away. He's sitting not. I mean, he's sitting side saddle, I guess, but he's just literally sitting sideways on his saddle, facing the girl. He falls backwards, lands on his feet, and then shoots under the belly of the horse. If that makes sense. If I'm painting a picture correctly for our audience. And when he
And
does,
then
his bullet takes out the center of the card, which, as we see, is of course the Ace of Spades, which is his calling card, literally. Um, this gets cheers from the crowd, and he does an actor's little cross-legged bow in appreciation, which I thought was a nice little touch. He does almost a little curtsy with his legs and
right.
holds up his hand in appreciation. Just a nice little touch of what a schmuck. this,
Yeah, what a
this guy
douche.
is. I mean, the pretentious douchey Jesus that he is. Um,
See, here's my
Go
observation
for
too
it.
of all that because maybe he is being douchey. And what are the odds she pulled the ace of spades? The odds are 100% because obviously he forced that card onto her somehow.
Yes.
So he's doing like little sleight of hand magic tricks.
Yes.
Now I'm even wondering, did he even shoot the gun or was it a trick card to begin with?
So in the
Because
1860s, he had a
only
squib.
yeah, yeah, only a douche would do it though. So maybe he did.
Well, to answer your question on being able to do the trick, maybe the Ace of Spades in an earlier part when he's actually introduced, he tells Sharon Stone that he puts an Ace of Spades in the deck for every man that he's killed, and then he fans the deck open. We see that he has like 80 some cards in this deck, and there's a shit ton of Ace of Spades. So the
Mm.
odds are better, but I like I agree with you that he's probably forcing is doing a forced draw off of it. He may, however, have
Right.
started doing a squib after what we find out here in just a second. So he's quickly stopped. The Admiration Society is kind of silenced when we see the familiar silver spurs of Gene Hackman coming into frame. And Herod says that he heard that Ace blew off the thumb of a little girl in Reno doing that trick. So if that was the
Hmm.
case, maybe to cover his ass, he got one bad shot off. Maybe to cover his ass, he started using squibs. I like that idea. I had never really thought of that. But yes, maybe we have some Penn and Teller magic going on.
Right. Old Western sleight of hand.
The Mississippi Shuffle, if you will.
Here we go.
So Ace, who obviously being a douchey Jesus, it's never getting old. He is ever the blowhard, and he tells Herod that he is the best that he'll ever see. And this falls on deaf ears because obviously Herod is he doesn't care. He kind of sees through the facade that is this pretentious character. It's interesting because there was a little show of dominance back in the saloon a couple episodes ago when we're introduced to Herod. He walks in, and the first person that he looks at, he stares straight down at Ace Hanlon, and Ace can't maintain eye contact with him. He immediately looks away and doesn't keep that eye contact going there. So there's a nice show of dominance earlier with Herod of I'm the real deal and you're not. So it was a nice little touch for him to go through that. But yet, when he's in front of a crowd and in people that he's trying to impress, he has the balls on him and he's bold enough to still stand there in the pocket and make those jabs towards Gene Hackman, knowing in his heart of hearts that he's probably up against more that he can chew. Kind of what did you get
Mhm.
out of that being kind of a first time?
Oh, I sensed the dominance from Gene Hackman, but I didn't know that context beforehand, so it does add a little layer to it, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean it is interesting because he's put in an interesting position because as we found out with Tobin Bell and Sharon Stone, he can't turn down a challenge. So with Herod
Oh,
coming up
true.
and telling him he'd like to find out how good he is, is he backed into a corner where I don't know, if I'm that fake, do I not still crumble right there? For him to still have the boldness to kind of keep that facade going. We saw him shoot out these spades. He's a decent shot. He has a reputation, as we find out. It's just an interesting dynamic that they both have going on, and just with Hendrickson staring at him, I'm not sure if it's supposed to be an intimidating stare, a how dare you challenge me stare, because to me it looks more like I don't understand your language and I'm unsure what you just said stare. He has this kind of
Hmm.
head cock that he keeps doing like a puppy dog that's confused or
Yeah.
curious. And again, not to knock Lance Henriksen, it's beautiful acting by him, but when you go back and look at his look on it, it almost looks like he's like, you're speaking words, but I don't quite understand what they mean. So I'll just stare at you until
Right.
you go away.
Or or even almost like why are you doing this in front of I'm doing my show here. What are you doing? Like this is my thing. He's a showman, you know?
Yeah, let me do my thing. God, Herod, stop.
Like are you interrupting this?
And we cut from there to a series of pocket watches being set close to noon, and it comes with this awesome trumpet score from Alan Silvestri, the composer. And we'll do a deeper dive on him in a later episode. But Alan Silvestri, this is a great soundtrack. Going back and listening, you hear some classic beats that is kind of his calling card. It's kind of like when you're listening to a John Williams score. A couple bars in, you can tell it's a John Williams score. You can really hear the Alan Silvestri in this, but it's just a nice little getting your blood pumping. Action is coming. Harbinger for from Alan Silvestri. We see Gutzen. He's the Swedish champion, just so you know.
Hmm.
He's putting together his gun and bullets, while the kid, in contrast, he's loading shells into his revolver pistol, and it's super cool as a Western nut. So I'm not big into weapons. I'm not big into guns. I can't sit there and tell you that that's a Colt 45 issue 97 384 grain silver loaded howitzer whatever. But as a Western nut, you just don't see the different styles and such like that in many movies. Even when you get close-ups of guns, it's almost always a Colt 45 that every single person has, and it's the same
Mhm.
gun that everybody has. So to kind of see these different styles is really interesting because Goodson is literally putting the powder, the ball, and the little piece of wax to keep it all in. He's doing all that into the shell, and you even see him tamping it down with the little mechanism. So like that's historically accurate. We're presumably in the 1850s 1860s, excuse me, during this movie. So like not everybody has the exact same gun, and he's coming from Sweden, so maybe with them not being as big of a gun nation as we are, like maybe that's the style that they have. It's like looking at, like I said, I wasn't a gun nut, and then I'm going through and say, look at like a German Howitzer versus a regular, American made handgun, and the differences between there. So it was just super cool to see somebody with like a musket style pistol that I didn't know existed. But I guess in looking, it's a historically accurate gun. It's just super cool to kind of see that contrast there.
And I like how Sam Raimi like incorporates that into the transitions between like scenes,
Mhm.
like we had earlier with the cards deck shuffling or the pocket watches, and then these guns, like these different guns, they're going through all the stuff, prepping it, getting ready for this, well, showdown, I guess you could say, but it's all like in their transition,
Mhm.
he creates. It's very entertaining to watch.
Yes, it's Star Wars doing the side swipe, but doing it with an action, with a set piece. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
absolutely it draws you in, and having that build up, and we'll see it more even during the gunfights with the quick cuts and such like that. It's that part's kind of an homage to the spaghetti westerns, the Sergio Leone movies with like Clint Eastwood and such. Which this movie is blatantly, and Sam Raimi has even said this is just an homage to that style of western. He's making a 1995 version of A Fistful of Dollars or The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Those quick cuts. It's just a beautiful way to build drama, to build action without
Mhm.
really doing anything. And like Sam Raimi's never met a zoom in that he doesn't like. So he's kind of the perfect director to do these quick action oriented cuts. I absolutely agree.
Oh yeah, I liked it. It really keeps the scene like flowing really, really fast
Mhm.
with a lot of action without saying a single word.
All right. And we see that the kid is obviously the crowd favorite, and he even earns a smile from Sharon Stone. So, obviously she's got something going on there. But we finally end our scene with the kid walking, and he's doing the cocky walk through the crowd of admirers towards the center of the street. And was he walking to the center of the street for what? We'll have to see next time. So Jay, I'm sorry. You're going to have to find out later what happens in regards to the kid versus Goodson. But that is where we end our scene. I can't wait to get back into that. But until then, Jay, give us a little rundown. I mean, where can we find you?
Oh, so I'm one half of Cryptids of the Corn podcast. We cover all things, Bigfoot, UFO, paranormal, or cryptid related. A lot of cryptid creatures out there throughout this country and the world in general. You can find us on all of our podcatcher apps, Spotify, iTunes. We're on all of them. So, yeah, we like to combine scientific and magical thinking.
Beautiful, beautiful. I like it.
That's pretty, and that's pretty much us in a quick little nutshell. So
And
if you're
it's
into Bigfoot and you're into cryptids and you're into anything like that whatsoever, or if you have a encounter or a eyewitness, event, we're the guys to talk to.
Absolutely, and I can attest to that. I just found fun fact. Me and Jay, we bowl on the same team at the national level for the USBC Open, and this past year, I was excited to tell Jay that hey, I'm starting this podcast. It was the Support Your Local Podcast season 1, and here to come find out, here Jay had been a part of his podcast, The Cryptids of the Corn, this entire time. So it was a nice little interaction where we both got to find out that we were doing this thing. And I'll tell you what, I jumped on to his show, and I've listened to a majority of their back catalog. And they have a lot of episodes. So if you're looking for a podcast that is cranking out the content, good quality content at that, definitely check these guys out. They are not at the snail's pace that that I'm putting mine out at. And as Jay said, it's not just Bigfoot. They go into all of the creatures that have a lore behind them. They go into some of the paranormal stuff. They go into some of the Nazi occult. I think that was one of the best episodes that I've listened to. Is the deep dive into the museum that shall not be named, and because I want
Yes.
this to air. But yeah, definitely give them a listen at Cryptids of the Corn. Very active on social media. Him and Justin will be more than happy to chat you up and get you going with their shows. But yeah, definitely give them a listen. But until then, if you have not already, please like and subscribe us on your favorite podcatchers. You can check us out on our social media. We are Support Your Local Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, anything, if you just want to chat, hit me an email at SUPP, your local podcast at gmail.com. Until we meet again, folks, it has been a pleasure. As always, I thank you for your time. And until then, support your local podcast.